Season 7 has gone live today, along with the host of balance changes that we covered in yesterday's video, is the Sombra rework. I got the opportunity to VOD review one of the best Sombra players in the history of Overwatch. Fitzy is here, played it a bunch in the creator pugs behind the scenes. Fitzy is famous for his cerebral backline manipulation approach to Sombra, a style that kind of got nerfed in this new version, but overall, I think from watching the gameplay that Sombra is straight up going to be buffed for every tier of play, at least once you adapt to her new strengths. I think the Sombra rework is pretty insane and makes her more reliable in more situations than she was before. The older version was more sharp, where she was good against her good matchups, but pretty weak against her bad ones. Especially in the turret meta, she may shape up to be the most effective flanker that there is, and it all centers around her new ability, Virus, coupled with the host of reworks they did to her kit. It's rare for a flanker hero to have any kind of poke damage at all. Usually they have to use their mobility to get in close. Virus is on a relatively short cooldown as well, and while the damage number itself might not look amazing, only 100 damage over the course of 4 seconds or 2 if the target is hacked, her ability to just straight up stand and deliver damage from the interesting and unique positions she easily gets to is straight up better than before. And especially in a turret meta, where flanker heroes are often deterred by how many deployables there are to get rid of first before you can ever go in, Sombra with her mobility and stealth is going to be very good at isolating out those Alari heal pylons before the fight even starts. Then on top of that, I'd say that the duel capability now, because of the flexibility in Sombra's kit, is far more advanced. There's a lot of targets where you won't feel like you have to apply a hack, and just Virus and your machine pistol will be enough. In the same way that you always have to be careful of an enemy tracer one-clipping you, I think Sombra can do that kind of offense easier, particularly from medium range if she lands Virus. And it's that flexibility that makes her so insane right now. If you think the target's gonna receive some healing, then maybe you need the hack in order to burst damage faster, but in a lot of duels you won't need it, especially when you start to maximize how Sombra moves around the battlefield now. Old Translocator was a deployable that you had to set up your escape path ahead of time. This often would trap players into having more downtime than you really should intend to, and the best Sombra players would kind of learn how to set up a retreat route that was still close to the fight so they could maintain adding pressure. Well, now Translocator does a few things for you. It's going to compensate for that lack of distance that you used to be able to clear with her old movement. Because her move speed and stealth is slower, you're going to find it harder to run around the map and get deep behind the enemy like you used to. Instead, what you need to do with Translocator is what we see Fitzy do. Short range, quick escapes to leapfrog from cover position to cover position. Translocator comes out much faster now. So whether you're throwing it the set distance up into the air for you to gain high ground in a quick escape, or quickly throwing it to the ground for an auto cleanse of yourself, which can get rid of deadly attacks such as pulse bomb or echo stickies, expert use of the Translocator is going to be key to accessing her playstyle. This allows her to have a lot more uptime than before when you couple in now that she has a ranged attack, leapfrogs from cover position to cover position, and an added benefit to Translocator is it reduces your stealth cooldown. Now, while a very mobile enemy might be able to track you down and decloak you in the short range leapfrogging that you're doing with Translocator, for the most part it activates so quickly that as long as you throw it in the right direction, it's going to be tough for most things, especially after they've just been hacked and engaged with you, to have the cooldowns to run after you. I actually think her cooldown cycle is so quick that it would be overpowered and might still be, but the game overall is quite powerful, so it's hard to know if this will overpower the other overpowered stuff that exists. But we notice Fitzy really likes to throw the Translocator at the first sign of any threat. When you're used to playing against top 500 players at the top of the ladder, those Hanzos don't really miss. So as soon as they turn to create line of sight onto the Sombra or even preemptively, Fitzy likes to flick away with the Translocator to reposition. And with Virus on a 6-second cooldown and Translocator on a 5-second cooldown, they're pretty much the same. And since Virus is such a high percentage of your meaningful damage and it applies damage over time with hit and run tactics, you don't have to rely on constantly shooting with your weapon if it's unsafe to do so. And while Virus might not be the most lethal cooldown that exists in the game, coupled with how mobile she is coming out of stealth, she's going to do it so constantly that it can be fairly suffocating suffocating. So much so that I predict that we might expect Illari to go down a bit in power and Kiriko to go up, because there's a lot of squishies that don't want to be harassed like this all game. And since Kiri has multiple cleanses for herself, and Suzu can AoE cleanse the EMP, despite the patch overall not looking so heavy-handed, this Sombra change is so important to the entire metagame that I'm curious if it's going to have a stronger impact than a lot of people are predicting. Let's keep in mind some other important changes to cap off the entire rework review. EMP now only zaps enemy health pools by 30% when it used to be 40, but keep in mind that virus gains the benefit of an enemy being hacked. And there's a lot of times where you'll cast the virus, it'll apply for 4 seconds, but then you EMP, zap their health pool, the virus damage over time DPS increases in that time, and you can get kills as you're running away a lot of the time, which is not something Sombra used to be able to do. This is what I think is so transformative about the kit now. A lot of her gameplay power is in her hands. It's far less about the disable. In the old version, it kind of felt like if you didn't hack a target, you weren't really going to meaningfully deal enough damage to make an impact on it. Whereas now that you have the flexibility to kind of pick and choose whether you focus more on damage, you focus on the disable, you've got a lot of options. In the big rework from Overwatch 1 to 2, the ability lockout duration just kept shrinking. And the reason the devs did that is because, well, it sucks to not be able to use any of your cooldowns in a hero shooter. But as they've added other crowd control to the game, Sombra having 2 good ways to disable you adds to the viable CC creep that is in the game. Which ultimately, from my standpoint, is why I don't go crazy about how powerful Suzu is, because this community complains when they get annoying abilities onto them, but also complain when a support hero can cleanse those off of you. I feel like the developers don't have a way to win us over as a community. The best they can do is have somewhat an even representation of the different playstyles we want to see in the game. Season 6 got way too defensive for my liking, and despite playing a lot of these quirky builder characters and odd supports, I love playing me some Bastion, Symmetra, Torbjorn, Lifeweaver. They made those picks way too effective for how easy they are, which wasn't always the case in Overwatch 2. We did have an era where the flanker heroes or range skill shots were dominant. Now I think Sombra is going to be a prominent hero for all tiers of play, because whereas the previous version was extra dominant in team organized gameplay, at least for a while, if you were like me, the patch switch making Atlanta far less effective after a entire season of Sombra dominance from Lip, that can be kind of sad to see, but they kept tuning back the peak power of what that teamwork version of Sombra could do. But overall, healthier for the game, in my opinion, because so few actual humans were able to actualize that playstyle, and it wasn't one that you could do necessarily with random teammates so well, without coordination. This version of Sombra, who's more of a hit-and-run flanker, is definitely a lot more approachable to more players. Definitely adds a significant counterpiece to the game outside of just hacking, now that she has a much more diverse, effective playset to her kit. Keep in mind that certain things about supports were worrisome to be too strong in the previous patch. So for example, they nerfed all of the supports roll passive so that now they regenerate their health more slowly. That didn't seem so important when everyone was playing Fortnite and building up fortifications in order to defend themselves, but now with a pure invis flanker being a lot more capable as a damage dealer and having higher uptime in the fight, Sombra is distinctly the type of hero that's going to reveal that roll passive nerf from the previous season. And when it comes down to it, while there's a lot of game sense to Sombra, she's not the most mechanically demanding. So I'd have to add her into that list of fairly easy heroes, at least mechanically speaking, that have a high upside, and now with an added DPS attack, her one major weakness of having low time to kill is just gone. And I don't think the rest of her kit is necessarily even a nerf from its previous version anyway. It's just a rework to keep her closer to the fight, but with mastery gives her more uptime than before, easier. Overall, I think Sombra is a huge winner in this patch, and using some of these tactics I think is going to gain you some early SR here in Season 7. If you want to check out more from Fitzy is here, his Twitch link will be in the description. One of the nicest guys in the Overwatch community, and has a dead ringer Frank Sinatra impression. So good that I fear playing it in this video would have got me DMCA'd striked. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it a like. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos come out. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.